Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 20 of This Valorant Life. In this episode, Adam and I will be diving into Bind, the last map of the series until we go through our next map rotation. So last but not least, Bind, it's not because we didn't like you. It's just you kept falling to the bottom of the vote pile. As we get into it, I think, Adam, I wanted to ask you, how do we think about the general comp for this map? And then I'd like to get into just how do we think about the teleporters? Like that's the major gimmick on this map. So I think that's where we can start the conversation. So maybe let's start off. What does a typical comp look like on this map?
Great question. This is, thankfully, for me, one of my Raze maps. I love Raze. I think this is Raze's playground. Let me put it in the middle here. As for initiators, you typically will be looking at a Skye, potentially a Sova. I think after the Viper nerf, you're going to be looking at Skye and Sova. And then, let me look. Brimstone is probably going to be your best controller. But let's be real, solo queue, you're probably going to be looking at some Clove as well. Maybe even Omen. And last but not least, some type of Sentinel player. I personally like the Cypher more than the Killjoy, but some people love the Killjoy. I think you can get away with any of them here. Bind's a very fluid map. You've seen double controller comps, you've seen double duelist comps, double initiator comps, maybe even double Sentinel at times because Sage is also really good on this map. But for the sake of simplicity, I do think the majority of solo queue games will look something like this top row here.
Okay. So then for simplicity, let's just do the Cypher and the Brim.
Sounds good.
Okay. What is it specifically about Brim? Because I've always thought this. Like, what specifically about Brim that makes him so powerful on this map? Is it because you can ult U-Haul? Yeah.
Yeah, great question. I mean, the ult obviously is incredible on this map. You have a few good ults. Maybe I'll quickly run through them on the Valor plant. The shower ult to pinch if they're fighting showers. The back triple ult. You can see it full clears that corner and triple. For the B exec, if you bias the ult towards right side, you basically stop the flood and full clear that right cubby, which is super annoying. And then, of course, if you ever get contact on the guy's long or hookah, it's very diverse. But I guess, these are kind of the most common ults.
Yeah.
The other thing that makes Brim really good is that there is no mid. So that being the case, it's less of a mid default map where you need recharging smokes, and it's more of an execute heavy map where you're kind of just going with the stim beacon, followed by potentially triple smokes on the execute, and then you're just running it down. So triple smokes on B, you can smoke off hookah and just go 5 long, right? That's great. If you're going to triple smoke A, you could do the top tank, mid sight, and triple. Top tank just so you don't die.
Because Omen just has the 2 smokes. Astra can't triple smoke either.
She cannot.
So that's a unique aspect of Brim, that he has these kind of short range, because he can't extend across the map, but he's got like a short range triple smoke, which is just way more powerful on these execute.
Yeah, and the molly, of course, I think Bind A site specifically is one of the few bump sites on Valorant that I think is actually really good to play post plant mollies. And of course, Brim molly lasts forever. So yeah, it's just a really good post plant map. Post plant bomb site.
Yeah.
So Brim, very good, very annoying to play yourself though, in my opinion. But yeah, we'll discuss how Brimstone's really good and how you can make that work. So.
And how do we think, like, the whole gimmick of this map is the teleporters,
right? And
so how does that change how we think about the A and B sites? From both an attacker and defender side?
Yeah, that's such a great question, and there's a little bit to explore here, so maybe we'll take it TP by TP. The first TP I like to talk about is the A short to hookah TP. So this teleporter is very crucial for both attack and defense. The reason why it's good for attack is because if you're attacking A and you can't get the plant down, then you can immediately just pivot and then go to B and plant B. And being a very quick rotate, it's actually faster than the spawn rotate for defenders. So you can kind of cheese your way out of there. For example, let's say you're trying to plant, you spot 3A, take the TP, you're going to only be fighting 2B, and then the rotator spawn. Really quickly showcasing the power of Brim here. When you do take the TP, if you do a deep smoke here, and then you molly, or you just do standard smoke and molly, you no longer have to deal with those A rotators, and you can just focus on the 2 B players. So really important concept that I'll bring up later, but you need to be mollying the spawn flood on B site.
Okay.
The other reason why this teleporter is good for defenders is the opposite. So obviously if we talked about going A to B, that means that defenders can now go A to B. So if attackers are trying to establish hookah control, say with the Raze boombot or with the Sky Dog or Sova drone or whatever the case may be, if they get kind of contact here, the most common way to do this is a Cypher Trip is on defense. Let's just throw in Raze here. On the defending side, I'll switch the color. So boom, let's just say, actually, we put Raze here, and then I'll just put Cypher here. This makes more sense. Attackers are trying to take this, Trip gets activated. This Raze will now throw nade through the teleporter to open the door and land in the middle here, and then you can fight off of it. So it's very, very straightforward trap setup that we saw very early on in beta when the developers played against like the developers of Valorant, like Penguin and I forget some of the other guys' names. They played against some of the old CS players that transitioned early on, and they got completely trashed on. So very good play here. That's why this teleporter is good. Defenders can control hookah better, and attackers can pivot if they can't plant. Okay.
So that's a short to kind of hookah. What about the B long to kind of showers teleporter?
Yeah, so I love this teleporter. I think it's completely underutilized. Maybe getting into the playbook of Sky a little bit, you can kind of get info on both B long and showers by playing here. So of course you flash B long, see nothing, and then you take dog through TP, and then it goes all the way around, and then boom, now you're getting info showers, and now you're literally controlling both extremities by playing one spot, which is incredible, right? And if you do have a teammate fighting off of it, let's just throw Brimstone here, you now control, like they can't take B long and they can't take showers, which means if they try to split any site, they're going to be met with resistance. And you can see how this is twofold with A short into the hookah TP. If now they're trying to go fast B to speed up because they know this guy is playing B long, they get trapped into the B setup. So this is why bind I think is so difficult to play on attack, is if someone plays a really good defense, it feels like you can't do anything.
Well, because coming out of hookah, if you don't have any long control, it just feels really rough unless there's no one on site.
Correct. But yeah, this is the best way to utilize this B long TP.
Okay.
For defenders.
Yep.
You get the info, you set up your teammate in showers to take a fight with either the Prowler, occasionally, sorry, not Prowler, Skydog. Occasionally you will send a flash through just at the start of the round, pop it here, like close to the wall so it doesn't blind your teammate, and you'll just take like an early duel, say with your jet op or something like that. As for attackers, easy way to play. Let's just throw your lurker here. Boom, this guy lurks. Everyone starts rotating towards B side. Maybe even the Raze takes the TP actually. And attackers now work B long instead, right? Now you can see how this is gonna really fit into the puzzle. Is, maybe we do a B split. We're taking hookah, this guy takes TP. We're baiting the rotate essentially. Now that this guy's taken TP, all we have to do is these guys run back. Maybe these guys will like run up and take the TP, and then boom, match with the Cypher. And then now you suddenly are doing a 2-3 A split. Just like that, like immediately. And this Raze is just like completely out of the play. So I guess the answer to the oppressive defense is kind of just playing slow and using the TPs to rotate and punishing the quick playstyle of the defenders if they do utilize the TPs quickly.
So on this map in particular, is it more important to, like as a default on defense, be anchoring versus just selling out on a site hit and just running to the opposite site?
Ooh, yeah, that's a great question. I would say the slower attack that you play, the better your chances of winning the round are.
Okay.
If that answers your question.
And then what about on the defense side? Something like a B retake is not great. Just as like a macro concept, are we selling out, like just flooding B to prevent a retake scenario? And we're generally trying to anchor B, at least one guy, so we don't have to get caught on a TP. Like how are we thinking through that kind of posture on defense?
Yeah, great question. I think I understand now. Basically, should you be fighting B to die or should you be playing retake? And You should be fighting B to die. Typically, that either means fighting in B long to die, so you're doubled up, or you're fighting in hookah to die, or you trade the util there and then fall back and then fight on site to die. Which I guess is also why I bring up that reason that attackers need to be mulling spawn flood, because if defenders are really trying to fight B and die and hold down the site, this guy that's rotating from A is going to run through and fight that. So to reverse that, attackers should be thinking about defaulting B at the start of the round to bait the rotates, and because defenders are going to be really keen on holding B, and then lurk A and then hit A late. That's like I almost guarantee that if you just do that exact strategy for B at the start, 2 hookah too long with 1 lurking A somewhere, and then you just go back to A every so often, you're gonna win most of your attack halves on bind, because defenders can't do much about it.
So let's jump into the attack side then. We've kind of already just segued into that in terms of like a typical default.
Yes.
There's no mid, so that's like the major like lack of a typical part of the map, right? We don't have a mid, we just have a TP. What does a typical default look like for us on attack?
Like I said, I do kind of bias towards the B default over the A default. So this specific comp, we have double initiator, which is great, which means we can kind of split our util. So in this specific case here, your trips, honestly, I don't even know what good trips are, but let's just throw some trips here, like, you know, the hookah flank trip and then the cave trip. That's probably the most standard. I think I've seen even the B long trips over here too, but because Cypher's looking A here, let's just go with this trip. Your B default, you're just gonna try to figure out who is where, right? So that's the main goal of a default anyways, is figuring out what the enemy defender setup is, right? So what needs to happen is these guys hookah needs to not die. They need to slowly work hookah while these guys long figure out what the long setup is. So if your Sova is here or if your Skies be long, it's pretty interchangeable here. You use some type of util, let's just say Sova Dart at the start. I think it normally lands here actually. And if they're fighting long, maybe then your teammates would be able to get hookah, right? Then that will allow these guys to say use Boombot or like a Sky Flash or Skydog to take hookah. And then if this is the case, they can take hookah and they don't get TP'd on, right? This is important. They need to be hyper aware of the teleporter so they don't die. And if they can successfully take B long and hookah, likely it's a weak B site. That means that they're not playing the defense half properly, they're not contesting B long and hookah, or they're like just full stacking A. So if you get B long and hookah for free, you should probably commence into the execute, and then you just dump util like everywhere, and then you just hit the site.
Okay.
Right? If you're getting contested B long and or hookah, then you kind of want to play it a little bit slow, trade the util, see if they overswing you, and you're thinking more about, oh, let's reset towards A. And this is where your Cypher is going to kick into action. Oh, they're contesting B. Let me see if this Cypher in his head's going to be thinking, maybe I should be walking up showers right now, or maybe I should be walking up short to try to get a kill and find an opening and call my teammates back over.
Why would you start on an A default instead of a B default?
Sorry, a B default over an A default, or are you saying the opposite?
The opposite.
So why would you start A over B? Maybe the main thing is if you're getting completely obliterated by this TP play for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Or if they're just B stacking every round and you can't take the site, then it could be useful for you to kind of, number one, I guess let's start with a TP. If you start A short, this is more so to keep like Jets and Reynas in check.
Yeah.
As you can see with this comp, we don't have it. But let's just pretend they keep fighting A short for whatever reason, and they're TPing on us. Now we start A to make these guys like put them in check.
Yeah.
Tell them, hey, we're contesting you. You can't take the TP. Back off. I'm going to throw you till the start. These guys are going to back off, right? That could be one reason why you would start A short for that A default. The other variation for the A default is actually showers control.
Yeah.
Right? So showers control is great because it lets you get the orb, and it also allows you to potentially split later. It's a good insert position. So that could be some potential reads. Like if the defenders are, for example, contesting showers every single round and you don't want to give them that space, like for example an op line, then starting there to push that op back could be good.
So let's start with B then. What does a typical, like let's assume that, you know, we've been able to take B long control and B and hookah. So we've taken this area. what does it look like from here to execute on the site?
Yeah, okay. So likely what ends up happening is the B defenders either play elbow and sight. It doesn't really matter. Like sometimes you even see it flipped. We'll get into this in defense, but essentially because this is the defender setup, all you have to do is smoke. If you're splitting, you'll smoke off elbow and spawn. If you're doing all long, then you smoke off hookah. But for the sake of this, we have hookah and long control. Now you just util dump, right? So if you have raise nade, backside nade, and then if you have drone or dog or dart or just anything, you just throw it all over there. You kind of want to be a little bit careful of the front entrance trip here, the kill trip here, and the hookah like spider web looking trip. And it like, you know, you might throw a satchel, you might use drone util or shock darts, whatever to deal with that. But once you deal with that, the site should be yours. You should be able to just flood. In terms of routing, your long guys should be coming out towards the left, typically like this, and having their attention on the elbow smoke. And these guys hookah should be scaling out towards top site here, clearing the cubby on this right area here, and then proceed to peek towards back site via top site.
Yeah.
And then once
So
they've
go on
cleared
top of the
cubby,
box.
correct, go on top of the box. And then after they've done that, then they can start looking to drop down from top box to clear mid site and then just control the smokes. But the util here is just mainly smoke, smoke. If you have the molly, throw the molly in spawn just so that this site player can't get help. And after that, I mean, there's not that many spots you can play on B site, right? So you're pretty just clean here, which is why defenders should be playing a little bit more forward.
That's great. How do you think about post plant on B? It's a particularly hard site for the defender retake. I don't think you're really thinking about pushing through to spawn.
Correct.
Are you? But you are thinking about like whether, if you could, you'd love to be able to play elbow. But like, what are the typical like power positions on post plant that you would want to set up if you could?
Great question. Like you already alluded to, elbow control is great. So if you're playing a double initiator comp and you still have util, just plant open. This is very important. People tend to plant in this corner because they're scared of dying to the elbow
Ideally,
spam.
you plant on the ball, like right there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Correct. And if you can plant there, it's very easy to plant there. I don't know why people, like, if they're scared of elbow, just spray back elbow. Like, one of your teammates just spray back. But I guess, like, if you're in a 3v3, whatever, it's hard to do. But, yeah, ideally you plant there. If you plant there, take elbow, right? Like, util dump elbow, kill this guy. I want to highlight real quick. Elbow is typically not going to be heavily contested because look at how far the rotate is for the A player to go elbow, right? Typically, they're going to be towards this smoke here. In this particular example, they're just going to be here. And if the smoke is faded, then they can't rotate to elbow, right? So there's like a very specific timing for someone to be elbow unless they started the, I guess, sight holds in elbow. For example, the Cypher in this execute that we talked about before was just in elbow playing kill trips, right? So you take elbow, you win the round. You just play post from here. Maybe you have a player sit in hookah, doesn't matter, right? You could have a player on site, like, really the rest of your team doesn't matter as long as you take elbow control.
Yep.
It's such a great power position here. Once you do take elbow control, you can even start looking for a flank. It's just very good.
Okay, so assuming you can't get elbow control, is there a preference between long or hookah?
In terms of playing post plant?
Yeah, or would you rather play on site?
Yeah, so I would rather play on site. In terms of site positions, I love this cubby. For some reason, it doesn't get cleared that well. I also like this back sight angle because now this raise and sky can play off of each other. I'm also a little bit biased towards left side tube angle here, like this Sova can now pivot and swing off of the sky, but if he's worried about the elbow guy, then he can tuck tube, do the same thing. And now your long guy can hold your elbow like this. So I prefer this. Sometimes I'll even have the long guy kind of play the elbow angle aggressively into the little crack here.
Okay.
And this is an ideal post plant that is on site. Occasionally, if you already have, say, like I'm looking at raise here, if your teammate's already occupying this space, like let's say the Sova's in that space, as a raise, it could be good to play top site and you just be like peeking aggressive spawn.
Yeah.
But if you're a little bit smarter, you'll actually take the box over here on the double stack for a better spawn angle. And then if you're even smarter, you'll go back here because now you have the best spawn line and you can pivot and fight elbow if need be. So
You can
this
see
tower
spawn
position,
from there? Like this looks into spawn? Like there's an angle here?
if you're on top of the shed, like you
On top of
satchel
the shadow?
above,
Okay.
correct. Yeah, super good angle. It's as far as B executes. I guess this isn't something I mentioned. If we do a straight B long execute, your raise should actually double satchel on top of here and just sit here the entire time because it fights the spawn flood.
Yeah.
And once the smoke fades, you get that deep line CT.
Yeah. It's one of the like it's a special angle in the sense that you can fight the spawn flood without really actually being exposed to elbow.
Right.
Okay.
Very safe, very good position. So yeah, that's completely my preference. Like I said, I love to play on site. On B post plant, I think it's just so good. I think the choke points are very hard for defenders to get out of, so you should be doing as much as you can to fight it. If you still have that additional Brim smoke, or if you're playing a different controller and your smoke has recharged, a good smoke to do if you're playing aggressive and you do have that elbow control is to do the deep one here, and then you just hold it. If you don't have elbow control, or if you feel like you've lost timing, just do the safe one here, and then you'll just hold the smoke as well. Someone should be playing anti-flash, in this case the Silva, and you're good to go.
Let's move over to A then. What would a typical A execute look like? And why do we always ignore showers?
Oh man, that's a great question. So to answer the first portion, most A executes for some reason start with A short, and I don't like it. So an ideal A execute should start with showers, but let's look at an A short execute first. So the yeah, it's just funny because everyone does avoid showers.
No, it's just
so
I feel like what is that? 50% of the time it happens every time. Like 50% of the time we all go A short. We're like planting, and then this guy has taken showers and just peeks out like 3 seconds into the plant and then kills, and we're like, why did no one check showers? Like
yeah,
and then like, but it happens every time.
It happens every time. It happens in Radiant lobbies too. It's insane. I've like reviewed so many bind VODs. I'm like, why are they just going showers? And I was short, and I think they're just lazy. So let's just go ahead and say it's not optimal to go all A short, but because it's so common, let's look at the best way you can do it. Sky Flash early on or Skydog early on, Silver Drone early on, doesn't really matter which piece of utility you use here, because I think Sky's a little bit more popular. Let's just go with the Skydog. Your Brim smokes are gonna look like this. Both sides are triple. If your Brim wants to use a third smoke, top tank is the best because it covers, I believe, the heaven angle. But more importantly, the top tank angle that people love to sit on, that's super annoying.
Yeah.
So these are your standard smokes, right? With these smokes here, it's a little bit elusive because now you have two spots you need to be taking, U-haul and bench/showers area. The reason why this is very difficult to pull off if you go short, as you can imagine, is how are you going to deal with the showers guy, right? So typically what ends up happening when you're going like 5 or 4 short, U-haul is the first, I guess, priority point, and we deal with showers later. So boom, we take U-haul, Skydog typically goes into U-haul, the Rays might double satchel with it, and we're just flooding U-haul. And then once you take U-haul, you can try, like you put a little bit of pressure on these backside guys so that they might not be able to say, help this Rays from showers, and then that's kind of where you find a little bit of success. But yeah, that's what a typical A short execute would look like. And most of the time, if you're playing against high elo, they will counter this execute with a Brim smoke mid sight, and then you won't be able to plant, and then you have to take TP and go B, right? So that being the case, typically if you go 5 short, you're probably looking at a TP unless they like you get an early kill, or they're just not playing showers and you get lucky and then you can play.
So that's really in this case that would be the Rays calling for that Brim smoke, and then basically you can't clear backside, or you can't clear showers and bench.
Correct.
And you can get spammed on the plant.
Correct.
So what would a B split, or sorry, an A split look like?
Yeah, so there's a few ways to do this. You can either take showers slow or showers fast. I'm a little bit biased to showers fast. So with showers fast, you're gonna have this guy send the flash. I believe they used to curve it on the right here, but then after the Sky Flash duration nerf, it's a little bit easier to curve it around the left for it to pop. But regardless, flash showers, your Rays is gonna double satchel, and then you're gonna contest it super quick, kill this guy if he's there. And while this guy's going fast showers, if you have a second initiator, this guy should be droning short while everyone else slowly scales short, because oftentimes these guys just die. But if your raise is getting contested here, they should speed up, right? So just
do
figure
the
out what the
smokes
drone is doing.
change if we're taking showers as well as going short?
It can. I guess you could do deep smokes like this.
Yep.
I typically like to do deep smokes like this, actually. You can even throw the third one U-hole if you really want to, and you're just focusing fighting triple and backside. But typically I only call for deep smokes is if I have gun advantage and I'm playing against Eco. I would actually make the argument that the triple smokes are actually just better when you're playing showers, because now you can actually control bench.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's really hard to come out of showers if we have these deep smokes and you're worried about this guy here and this guy here on this angle. Looking like this angle is like really hard because you're kind of looking the wrong way when you're coming out.
Right.
So I feel like it feels like almost impossible to come out of showers.
I feel the same way. Yeah.
Okay.
I do prefer the triple smokes. So yeah, this is your typical A splits. Like I said, sometimes you might even throw that triple smoke there, or sorry, that U-haul smoke, just to really focus in on fighting showers. And it's a good idea to throw that U-haul smoke if you know they've been doubling showers every round. So if your raise gets contact here, then you can just stem beacon down short and just try to pinch them as they fall back.
Okay.
Otherwise, you'll probably just smoke top tank, take bench control, and then you just plant. Good to go.
Okay. Where is so default plant spot is there, right?
Right.
And where is that? If you had an open site, is that the ideal plant position?
So if you have an open site in the terms of an execute,
Yep.
yes, this would be the best one. If you're in a clutch situation, then planting here somewhere is actually better, because you can see it from heaven spawn showers. But yeah, I guess directly, yeah, if you have an execute, this is the best spot. Completely avoid planting triple. No one has lineups for triple, and no one knows how to spam triple. You only do the triple plant if you have no other option.
Okay.
But honestly, preference-wise, I would rather you just plant front triple, like on this other side of the L. I think that's a little bit easier to play off of.
Okay. And what about post-plant locations? How important is U-haul?
Yeah, so I will say most important thing first is bench. So if you can take bench, like in terms of priority, bench first, then U-haul second. So
why bench in particular? Is it because of the headshot angle into the spawn rotate?
That's part of it. You can definitely contest like the retake.
This line?
But right. That line is incredible, by the way. But more importantly, it's just so that you stop this guy from running through and killing the planter. Because like that happens a lot, especially now that triple box is the L instead of just a standard triple stack, so they can hide here if you just went all short, for example, and then so this spot is good. Once you do take bench control, it's very ideal for us to have U-haul control, because now you can kind of set like a
crossfire,
somewhat of a crossfire with the U-haul guy and the bench guy, and if this guy is getting fought, like the crossfire is activated, potentially the player that you have in U-haul can start pushing forward for a timing. So I would say it is good. For whatever reason though, like let's say you can't take U-haul, then your next best option is to kind of like fall back and play these two spots where you're playing pocket, bench, and U-haul. And then these guys, how do I explain it? The Sova and the Brim are double holding the U-haul angle, while this guy bench and potentially like a safe showers player are just dealing with that. So this is next best. You can imagine though, once smokes come up, it's not as good. And then like finally, you could potentially have people play offsite. Say you're Brimstone, where he's playing lineups over here, while these guys are kind of fighting to delay, and then you just util dump. And this was a little bit more common of a meta when you played the Brimstone plus Viper, because you can imagine the triple molly. But it's still completely viable for your Brim to play offsite if he has ult and molly. But you could also just win the post plant by using your molly to delay U-haul anyways.
I think that's it for attack. For attack, any eco weird eco strats that you would do when you lose the pistol? What are things that you would do to mix it up?
Okay, this one's super easy. Stole this one from Sentinels. Everyone chef's walks hookah. You should actually force by stingers because it's so good. Everyone chef's walks hookah. Get right around the corner. Then you drop the stim beacon. And then you skydog. Boom. And then you just run out with your stingers. Maybe you raise double satchel's backside and you're just flying out. They never expect it.
Okay.
And it's so good. Super good. Hookah pop.
Okay, hookah pop. I love it. It's got a good name too. Okay, on defense then. Let's flip the map.
Yep.
What does a typical setup look like? You know, I think if anyone has watched the Hujin videos on Bind, he really advocates for, you know, there's 3 on one side, 2 on the other, and the 2 on the other need to be pushing one of the lanes. Like, would you agree with that general concept?
3 on one side, pushing the lane. Pushing lanes in Bind is actually kind of troll because you can't fully take space on Bind like that because there is no mid, right? So there's like one less lane. But if you see an opening to push a lane, because of that reason, it's even more valuable. So it's just higher risk, high reward. But typically Bind, you're just fighting for something and holding that rather than full pushing.
Okay, sorry. That bad use of language on my part. It's more that like this is lane 1, this is lane 2, showers, and then short. And then if there's my understanding was that if there's 3 on this side and these guys on this side, then they need to be either here or here.
Right. Double contesting long or double contesting hookah. I would agree with that.
Okay. As like a general rule. And then is there anything other than just randomness between whether you'd put 3 on A versus 3 on B?
I mean, based on our argument earlier with the difficulty of B retake, you should be playing 3B and then 2A.
I typically feel like most people would play 3A, 2B.
That's
just
typically what ends up happening.
Because people look at A and they're like, oh, bigger site.
Yep, and that's why people's Bind defense sucks. There are arguments, though, to play a 2A setup.
Okay.
A 3A setup, and that's if you have Viper. If you have Viper, you can really like...
Lock down B.
Lock down B. You could actually not play too long to hookah. You can actually play 1-1 because Viper is so strong. She can deal with that spot with her mollies. And then the other player just spots the other one, and then the wall goes up, and you're chilling, and the rotates come in. But obviously Viper got nerfed. She only has 1 molly. She won't be able to delay as long. But yeah, 3B. Let's go into a typical setup.
Sure.
Your Cypher should be B. Realistically, Cypher is just insane. You need 1 info agent towards B long to control B long in showers control, like we talked about at the start.
Mm-hmm.
So my preference is that the Sentinel actually plays aggressive tripwire on hookah, so your A player has a queue to play off of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're looking at this. Maybe your secondary trip would be long, and then again, these guys would just get info, and then the Cypher might be playing either top site because this hookah angle is insane from top site, or you're playing inside hookah and just breaking the skydog / boombot, so it doesn't freely break your trip, right? Again, these guys are getting info. These guys are just playing a double long setup. Actually, it might make more sense for like the Brimstone to be here, but because you don't want the double info here, but
okay, yeah, let's do that.
Whatever the case may be.
Throw Brim over.
Yeah, Brim over. So honestly, this isn't standard just because if Brim is over, typically Brim does play A. He can't smoke, so we're already kind of running into a awkward thing with this comp in particular because normally you would have the Viper and then the Brim is free to play A, but this you can definitely make work. I guess I'm kind of realizing the contradiction here because I also don't like to have the Brim and the Cypher on the same site. So maybe it's, even though it's less than ideal, this is probably what your standard setup is going to look like based on this comp.
Got it. Okay.
So yeah, you would double info here for whatever reason. Maybe you'll get info outside hookah as well.
Mm-hmm.
What you need to understand is these guys are controlling long orb and they're getting as much info as they can. Maybe we're using info to go do the TP as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like boop, boop, dart through, and then this guy can touch showers. If we are playing a 2A setup, then that means that ideally these guys are just holding double showers together.
Yeah, they're not going to push short. Or not. It's
They're
so hard for
definitely
them
not
to
gonna
push
push
short.
Yeah. So you're likely playing double showers here, and then if you are playing double showers, you're looking at a Brim smoke here. Potentially, if you're like you really want to hold it, you might even Brim molly just to hold it while they're executing, and then you will also throw that mid-side smoke just to stay alive,
Mm-hmm.
and then try to stay alive as your B rotates come in.
Yeah.
So that's that option. The other option for your A players is to play backside / U-Haul. So you might have like U-Haul backside. Typically it's actually flipped. Brimstone's here, Ray's here. And then you're just looking to kind of kill them as they run in. You might be able to one way and then fight. Your Rays might be jump spotting backside, or if the Sky or Silver Util saw nothing showers, then you can fully just focus on short. And you might be able to like get a kill, delay plant, stuff like that with even just 2 players. And I guess if they are playing this 3B setup, your Cypher could cheat a little bit because he has a trip there. He could kind of play towards spawn and hover.
So in this case, you're kind of already like the kind of the mindset I'm already hearing is if you've got 2A, like you're not dying on sight.
No.
You're trying to get a kill and play your life.
You're trying to get a kill, play your life, and more importantly, deny plant. Because if you can deny plant with this mid-site smoke plus nade plus molly, whatever the case may be, Brim ult, rocket, you push them towards this TP more and more. They're like, oh my god, there's so much util here. Let's TP, and then lo and behold, 3B. Okay. Right. So and because they held long control, if they don't they leave one guy and like 2 guys rotate off, they take the TP. The long guy is going to go, he's going to have a nice round. Okay. So,
assuming then, let's say we've got 2 guys short, we've been able to stay alive, maybe we've got 1 kill, but now we're in the post plant. How are you thinking through the post plant on A? So you've got a rotator here in spawn. Do these guys come in TP, or does that telegraph too much? Are they coming through spawn, or are they flanking? Like what is the kind of approach in your mind for that retake?
Yeah, great question. I would say if these guys are contesting showers and the attackers are fighting here while there's people coming up short, one of these players should take the TP and just triple fight it. Okay. But I guess the argument that we're assuming here is that they just all went short and they planted. Yeah. Right. If that's the case, if these guys are still double showers, I would say I would like to have one guy TP over, and then the other 2 guys go spawn. And then these guys are kind of slowly clearing spawn. These guys are making sure their showers is good. You might have one guy flank, and then you're going to have the other 2 guys make sure you're clearing triple, you're securing. Let me just draw it. You're trying to secure this space and everything aside from U-Haul in sight. And you're keeping them, let me change the color. You're keeping attackers contained in this yellow box, right? So if you can contain attackers in this yellow box, your flank can come in, the smoke fades, and then all you have to do now, as you can see, is actually just clear. Let me make another box. All you have to do is actually clear this. Oh, black is not a good color for this. Let's try blue. Yeah, a little bit better, but not. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. So if you clear this front sight plus pocket box here, you should be able to start to diffuse. So notice how you don't even actually need U-Haul, because U-Haul can't see the plant, right? So you can kind of just clear this front sight area, tap spike, and then force them out of U-Haul to take fights on you. And of course, taking U-Haul is ideal, but if you feel like you don't have enough util to take it, or if you're playing against an eco buy and they have shotguns and stuff like that, don't force U-Haul and give them a gun. Just play the range, go to front sight, tap the spike, maybe even stick the spike. If your Brimstone has a smoke the bomb, and then half it, fight, whatever, you're chilling.
But what about, don't you need to take control of short?
So you don't actually need short control. You just have people cover you. Okay. So if you have a one-way, that would be great. If you still have a smoke for a bomb and you can one-way short, you're probably just going to win because you can fight that. But as long as you smoke the bomb and you have your teammates cover you, I mean, you're pretty good. This guy can go wide right, hold you. Your teammates have the U-Haul wrap. You're looking pretty good there. Okay. And especially if that flank comes in. Okay.
Cool. How are you defending a B execute then?
Right. So let's see. Let me get rid of the abilities. So we kind of already had the 2B long set up, and then your Cypher kind of contesting hookah. Yep. Let's see. If they're splitting B, say like this, then potentially your Raze, if he was playing U-Haul or close short like this, he could nade off of the trip and take this fight. Yep. Right? He could do that. And then if you're doing that, then your Cypher would be playing inside hookah, and you just win the round off of that. Yep. Right? So that's option 1. Option 2 is, let's just say these guys are playing really passive on A, which is very common. This guy's playing top sight, and these guys are doubled long. The Cypher is trying to delay and get as much impact as possible. He might even get a kill, but let's just pretend he doesn't. He's just delaying. He's going to have a cage here. Your Brimstone's eventually going to smoke hookah. And we're just delaying these hookah guys as long as possible to give our long players a chance to fight. Like they might pop flash and fight here. They might dart flash, get some kills. And then as long as they've traded util, right, this is important. As long as you've traded util, you made this Sova use dart, you made the Sova use drone. He doesn't have it for the execute. You're more than free to start falling back. If you start falling back, try not to fall back into elbow. If you're playing Sova, you're allowed to go elbow because you have dart, but of course you're going to be behind the smoke when they execute. So I'd rather see my B players fall back into sight. Maybe this guy would play cubby or back sight. Maybe this guy would play close wood, and then we're looking to kind of just fight here because hookah is delayed by this smoke, right? And this spot is just good in general. So because they don't have dart or drone anymore, you're a little bit more free to play this spot, and you're a little bit more free to play on site.
I see. I've never thought about it that way. Like, of course it makes sense to trade out util, but in this case, specifically trading out the drone dog type util allows you to play these kind of one and done spots.
Right.
And punish.
And that's also why playing, I guess maybe I'm jumping a little bit ahead, but to give a sneak peek towards A, doing this deep brim smoke is very good because typically skies on attack will insta dog. And then you can just break the dog, and then now you could actually play close left. You could play even next to the smoke if you wanted to, like on an eco round. U-haul is much easier to hold because there's no sky dog.
Yeah.
So this quick, I guess, tip to increase your win rate, instead of just doing the one-way smoke every single round on Brim, just smoke deep short insta every single round, and your A hold would just go up by like that much higher just because it's so much harder to push that. So, but going back to B, sorry. Typically the execute would look like this, right? You have the smokes elbow, you have the smoke spawn. If you do have an elbow player, this guy should be in the smoke playing off of your sky's contact here, or if your sky is back sight, then this guy should be ready to arrow when they're coming out. And this is a little bit more of a passive B hold. It works. NRG, or I guess Optic, the old Optic core with Crashies used to do this really well because Crashies would play elbow with the dart. But that's only the use, like that's literally the only use case I've seen it be really effective. If Cypher's playing elbow, typically better teammate or better enemies would just walk out and break the trip anyways. So I don't like the Cypher in elbow at all. But the Sova is, the dart's a little bit more unpredictable. So, but yeah, typically try to play on site. If you can delay hookah, great. If you can get a kill before you fall back into the site, even better. As long as you trade util, you're probably okay to turtle insight because they won't have the nade if you contested hookah. They won't have the dart and drone if you contested long, and you're going to be pretty good there.
But in all cases, in contrast to how we're holding A, you'd rather die on site than to just have people caught behind smokes in elbow or back here.
Right. I guess the only argument you would ever do to playing offsite is if they just have like penta ults, like they have the Raise Rocket, Sky ult, Sova ult, Brim ult. Like at that point, I mean, you're probably not going to hold any site anywhere. So.
And then what does retake look like on B?
Yeah, retake's hard. Ideally, you get a couple kills, but if you're ever in a 5v5 retake, you're probably looking at a save. But for the sake of bringing up the argument of what it would look like, hookah smoke is super important. I could get into why, but basically it's the hardest angle to kind of get out of spawn. So smoke off hookah. You do need people to go elbow because if you go 5 out spawn and you just get countered with util, you're not going to make it out. So ideally have some elbow players. And then if you do have util to clear this cubby, that gives you one of the higher chances of this retake because this cubby is a very strong position. Like I mentioned on attack, people don't tend to clear it, so make sure you clear it with util. And then if you can, you're looking at a potential possible retake where you can get out spawn and elbow. And if you do, you're actually that was the hardest part. If you can actually make it out spawn and like clear the bomb site, like clear tube and clear this spot, you actually have an okay chance of winning the post. If you have smoke spike, these guys elbow can now contest the long guys, and then of course hookah's a little bit. If they're behind a smoke, it's hard for them. So now you're actually looking at a pretty high chance to win the retake, but this is under the assumption that you can make it out spawn and elbow. That's the hard part.
Okay.
So
my maybe last question would be, how effective, especially I'm looking at like that hookah player on defense. How important, how useful it is to be lurking up, holding space, or flanking.
Flanking A.
Either, but you know, I'm kind of thinking that if this cipher is here, there's no one here. Like, how important or useful is it that he's kind of doing that, or like coming up here and holding in this area?
Yeah, that's a great question. A lot of times, this spot here is actually really good because people don't come back and clear it.
Yeah,
But I think as the game has progressed, it's getting cleared more and more.
yeah,
But this spot used to be like the push-up spot because
yeah.
you can see them come back hookah, you can see them come back
You and
long.
you can hear them short.
Right, right. So this spot is very good, and I think it is important for your hookah guy to go for it. Say like it's maybe a little bit more common for your raise to do it if he's being aggressive with the sky flash one round
Mm-hmm.
or something like that. But if your cipher wants to go for the push, then that's completely viable because, like I mentioned before, if attackers try to go A and then they have to take the TP, you're now in prime position to capitalize and punish off that.
Can,
Now you can like tuck a little bit.
when you're on this lurk, there's kind of like two ways to play it, right? There's kind of one way which is like, you know, probably not a cipher, but almost like, let's say if it was a raise, like he could be like jiggling this angle, like back and forth.
Right.
And the moment they come, he could nade them and make them feel claustrophobic, right? And really not be playing for kills, but playing for like just controlling space and delaying. And then the other way is kind of like he would be back here holding like this off angle, and he's probably needing to get two,
Right.
right? Like, and so is that just a play style, or do you feel like one approach is more optimal than the other? Because I mean, this is more general than just bind. This is like a general kind of like a lurk decision point for every player. But how do you think through that?
Yeah, I think it depends on where the tripwire is, because like sometimes the tripwire is very deep. Like let's say it's here, then you're probably just better off sitting next to the trip.
Yeah.
But like if the trip is like a little bit further back, then going for like the deep spot here is good. So I think yeah, it's just more so more so of how much the attackers are willing to give you that space. Because if they're giving you the space, you should look for it. I guess the argument of whether or not you should delay/contain versus going for kills, I'm heavily biased towards the kills. I think if you have an opportunity to like get surprise kills, you should get the kills, unless so going for like the delay, fallback. Of course, that's viable and maybe in a macro perspective in like a high level tournament that could be the better play. I recall potentially Sad Hack doing that, but I can't remember. But it's viable. But typically in solo queue, you do kind of want to cash in on the flank there and get that kill.
Last one would be what are the eco options on defense other than just stacking a site?
I think it's just buying close range guns because notice like you do have a lot of spots to play close range guns, right? Like U-Haul, hookah, maybe even like a random showers like octagon like stack. But I think that's kind of the most success I found is just trying to play like a two-man setup in one of those spots and getting cheese kills.
Cool. Is there anything we didn't cover on bind you feel like we talked about?
I don't think so. I think yeah, that was good.
We did it. For anyone who made it through the full series, for those that have made it through the 20 episodes, this is our 20th episode, which, based on podcast statistics, makes us immortal rank for podcasts. It puts us in the top 1% of global podcasts. So appreciate everyone joining in and being a part of this community. Thanks for the support. And we will be back next week with another episode. So stay tuned.
Stay tuned.